right, hi everybody. You're gonna be taking some notes today on interest groups for your task. First, we're gonna start off with a little bit of a joke. I love jokes. It'd be funny. All right, so why do we tell actors to break a leg? Because every play has a cast. Boom! Oh man, again, I crack myself up all the time. All right, anyway, so here's the interest groups. All right, so what you guys need to do. You're in your notebook, copying these into your notebook today. Make sure we're all on the same page. There will be an extra ticket and some different tasks that you'll need to go through over the next 2 days. So again, topic, interest groups, title in your notes. All right, so what is an interest group? I guess start up by this way. How many of you guys feel passionate about an issue? Or you feel strongly about an issue? I know I do. There are several issues I feel very strongly about. Okay, so with that question is that, well, how strongly, based upon how strong you feel, would anything urge you to get involved in a rally or to raise money for something or to make an influence in the government off of what you feel strongly about? Well, that's where it varies. That's where interest groups come into play. Some people have issues they feel strongly about, but they're not really quite willing to act on those things. Interest groups are. That's where interest groups come into play. Those are agents in government that try to create change for their particular issue that they feel strongly about. All right, so definition. Interest groups. Interest groups are groups of people with common concerns who join together to influence government policy. So these people aren't running for political office. They're not running for election. Their goal is to influence those that are in government to pass laws to protect wherever their interest is. So, for example, you see some examples at the bottom. The NRA, that's an interest group that protects gun rights. So interest groups, NRA is an interest group. They make sure they talk to politicians and influence those that are in government to protect gun rights. That's just one example. The ACLU, as you see at the bottom, they protect civil liberties. So same thing. They work with government leaders and ensure that they pass laws that protect their civil liberties. So ultimately, their goal is to affect public policy. As you guys see in the slide here, public policy is a plan of action that addresses a problem to benefit of the greater good. So essentially, it's a law. It's policies that affect the public. That's what interest groups want to try and influence them and the leaders of the government. All right, so if you need to pause, go ahead and pause this and you can copy down what you need. All right, so effectiveness. What makes an interest group effective? Some interest groups are very effective, some are not effective. So some things to consider when you're looking through different interest groups. One is the size. Is the interest group, is it national interest group? Is it a state interest group? Is it a local interest group? So like for instance, the example I have there is the AFL/CIO. That AFL is American Federal of Labor. That's a national interest group, national organization. It's lots of manpower, lots of people, lots of money, versus like the Cleveland Local Plumbers Union that would also be an interest group. Obviously, the local plumbers union has some clout and power in the local area, but they're not quite a national group. Don't have the same pool, manpower, money that the national one does. So it's important to kind of see in terms of the influence. Two is how big is their members? Do they have 1,000 people? Do they have 100 people? Are there millions of people? Obviously, that makes a difference. The more people you have, the more power you have. Because why? Because that's voters. Your people who are in your special interest group are going to vote accordingly for their special interest. And those people have a lot more money to donate, to provide to politicians, to influence how they vote on certain issues. The third thing is organization. Who's their leader? Leadership makes a big difference. Is the leader active, not active? Are they trying to recruit more people, not trying to recruit more people? So that makes a big difference. And then four, I kind of already alluded to this before, is the money. Are they able to fund for a staff? Are they able to fund for campaigns? Are they able to buy advertisements on TV, radio, internet? All those things cost money. So if they have the funding and the money to do that, obviously the more advertising they're going to get to have more followers. So I'm going to pause this if you need to stop and copy some of this stuff down. All right. So now a lot of people they confuse political parties and interest groups. Those are two very, very, very different things. And you'll see why. So here's a chart kind of helping you kind of sift through that. All right. So really in three different areas. You have nominations, government of effect, and area of focus. So political parties, what do they focus on? So Democrats, Republicans, their goal is to nominate individuals to run government. So if you're a Democrat, you want to. So right now we have, we had Hillary Clinton in 2016. I'm looking at my chart here. Michael Bloomberg, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden. So those are people who were nominated or who entered the nomination process to run for their party. They want to control government. They want to be in government. They want to control the policy. Same for like mayors and governors and whatnot. Same thing. Whereas interest groups, they don't run for elections. Their goal is to influence the Joe Bidens of the world, Hillary Clintons of the world, a congressman or woman, to influence them to vote how they want to vote. So they hope to influence who are nominated. Second area of focus is the government effect. So if you're a political party, you're interested in winning elections. That's basically it. To win elections and control government. You want your political party. So if you're Democrats, you want to elect or nominate people who can win elections. If they win elections, they control the lawmaking process. Whereas interest groups, again, they don't win elections. They don't run for government. So their goal is to influence the policies created by government, to influence those people who make the policy. And we'll show you some examples of that over the course of the next next day or so. And then the area of focus, this is where it's kind of important too. If you're a political party, you can't just worry about gun laws or immigration or taxes. You have to worry about a wide variety of issues. You have to worry about all those issues, all combined. You can't focus just narrowly on one thing. It's the all. Whereas if you're an interest group, you're worried about just your one narrow thing, your one focus. That's your only interest. So if you are the NRA, your focus is just gun laws, protect gun interests. That's it. That's your interest. It's very narrow. Whereas again, political parties are very broad scope. So again, pause this if you need to. All right. So what's the function and what's the benefit of being in an interest group? Interest groups are very important to the political process because kind of think of them almost like a checks and balance. A lot of people are involved in them. They oversee what the government does. So one of the positive things that it raises public awareness towards affairs. So people feel passionate about something. Again, gun laws, immigration, cleaning the environment. There's the MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving interest group. The Sierra Nevada Club against a green environmental interest group, the AFL, federal labor, that kind of thing. So, it inspires people to become aware and to care about, what's being done in government to protect, whatever interests they have. Two, it represents people who have shared attitudes towards things. So again, interest groups will help represent people who fit in that certain category of what their interest is. Three, provide specialized information to government agencies and legislators. So these interest groups do the research. They look at all these cases. They provide things to government leaders and how they can, again, it's biased. So it's why you kind of have to be careful in terms of if you're a congressman or woman and getting things from interest groups because their information is biased. But their goal is to provide that information to government agencies and legislators to get them to vote how they want to vote. Four, increase political participation. If you obviously feel passionate about something, you're going to get involved with something that will increase your involvement, money, donations, time, whatever that you're going to do. And as I said, checks and balances. It keeps tabs on our government and how things operate. Again, pause this if you need to. All right, some problems. So obviously the good things, yes, there are some bad things. One is some cases they might have too much influence, as you'll see here in a minute. Actually, I'll show it to you now. I'm going to stick you as the site. It's called Open Secrets. So I'm just looking at this slide here. You're looking at This is the NRA, National Rifle Association. This year alone, they've contributed $287,000 to political campaigns so far in the cycle. It's still going, but they've gave money to individual candidates across the country who supports gun rights. Now you're going to go to lobbying. We'll talk about lobbying, what that means in a minute. But they've spent over $3.2 million in lobbyists. Again, millions of dollars. Very powerful organization. So that kind of showcases their power in terms of their influence. All right, going back to this. How influential are special interest groups? It's kind of hard to say. I mean, even though you're a part of the NRA, doesn't mean that you're going to be an active member, like going to rallies and whatnot. So sometimes it's kind of hard as a politician and government to really gauge because you don't really know the intensity of how somebody feels about a topic. So it's kind of hard to say how much interest groups influence how much they have. So it's something hard for politicians in order to gauge. Obviously, they push their own agendas. They're not worried about the whole big picture. They're only worried about just their issue. So again, you gotta be careful about that. So sometimes what's best for them may not be best for everybody as a whole. And again, as you will talk about, there's bribery, there's threats that go on. Obviously, if you saw that money, $3.7 million to lobbyists, we'll talk about that here in a second, but that's leads into some pretty shady stuff. Okay. All right. We're going to skip to this. Well, we'll talk about this really quickly. There's 3 different types of interest groups. You have your economic interest groups. You don't need to copy down the purpose or examples, just kind of going over it with you. There's environmental groups. There's public interests that promote different causes. So that's kind of where it falls in either money, economic, environment, or more cause-based. Like I said, the NRA, there's examples down here, NAACP, NRA, Planned Parenthood, Right to Life, ACLU. Again, those are causes. Environmental groups, that's Sierra Nevada Club, that's environmental group. Economic groups, as I said, labor unions, businesses, banking, that would fall in that category. All right, so I mentioned this before. What's a lobbyist? What does that mean? A lobbyist is somebody who is a person or group hired by an interest group. So these people are actually going to DC, going to state governments. They're actually on the ground. These people are very influential. They have the ability to sell. And interest groups pay lobbyists millions of dollars to do this work. It's hard to do. These people are on the ground talking to congressmen and women every day, influencing. These people are very, very influential and very, very persuasive. So again, they work for interest groups. They're hired by interest groups to do the lobbying for. So think about, like, if you ever convince your parents to go out and do something, you say, "Hey, Mama, I'll do chores." Well, you're lobbying your parents. You're bribing them. You're offering them things to sweeten the pot to get you to do what you want to do. So go ahead and pause this if you need me to do that. All right, so lobbying techniques. Again, you meet with lawmakers. You give money to campaign contributions. So you give money to people and lawmakers who are going to have your best interests at heart. You give information to government officials. Again, biased information to have them pass what you want them to pass. You send letters. You send emails. You do media appearances to make government look bad if you have to. But you're constantly in the news, and propaganda is a big part of it as well. All right, so go ahead and pause. All right, there are some rules against lobbyists, and you'll see here in a minute. I'll show you an example. Government leaders cannot accept lobbyists to pay for travel. All sponsored trips must be connected to official duties. All staffers of government leaders must be cleared in advance, and no gift of $50 or more. Now, again, these are laws, but there are many ways to go around it. Lobbyists find every way imaginable. Again, their job is to influence. Their job is to convince. Their job is to pass the interest groups that's hired them their stuff. So sometimes money gets slipped under the table. Sometimes they get tickets to certain things. They get access to the best restaurants. So you'll see that in a minute. There's a lot of shadiness that goes on, as we'll talk about. All right, so that's it of the notes. We'll talk more about this later on.